Okay, this is the Dow Jones, and just zoom in a little bit. I'm just using Pro Real Time because I'm just going to have a little play with the lines now. Now we've had this bit of a run up here on the weekly, and we're just wanting to have a look where that might get to. So I'll just draw in, I might draw in a bigger pitchfork here, just to have a look where that gets us. So if that were to return to the median line, then we'd be looking at the 12,150, but let's have a look now. I'm just going to mark off some high volume bars, and I'll mark off the high and low of that bars. That's trapped our price in that range at the moment. We just started to break out of that range now. So we had a high volume down here. It sprung up on decreasing volume, so a bit of no demand as it pushed up, but then the volume's kicked in and it's kept going. So even though it hasn't gone too much further, it's still closed on the high. So you got to look at that positively. And we're starting to push out through this range. We can put a fib on there as well at the high and the low, and we've got the 50 fib just there, which it's above the 61 that it's breaking out of now, and then we've got the 76 a bit further up as well. So, or we could have a look at that's on our bigger time frame. I'll get rid of those for now. A smaller time frame, we've got the 50 fib, which we're just poking our head above, and we've got the 61 above there. And so I suppose we could have a look at that level, and that's right on the close of this high volume bar here at the pivot low, and that's going to be an area now that's going to act as a bit of resistance, but we'll see how we respond to that. We still don't have a pivot high, a higher pivot low on the weekly chart. We'll have a higher pivot high now, so if they're real good to us, they'll give us a lower pivot low. If it were to go up to the median line and pivot there, create a pivot there, and come back to a lower pivot high or higher pivot low, and if it was really light volume coming down and narrowing spreads, then that would give us a really that would be a good test of this congestion area here, and that'll give us some add strength to the chart. The other thing we can look at possibly is, I'll just do a pitchfork there, even though we broke it. Oh no, not there. I think this one here would be a good one. So we break down from, let's colour that black so it's different from the other one. So following the median line up, it broke through on the energetic bar into this area. I might just put a warning line on there or two. First warning, second warning. So it's come down and found a bit of support on the first warning. We've got a bit of a shakeout down below there, and it's bounced straight back up. So we've got a bit of congestion here of pivot points. We've got the 61 fib, the crossing of the big median line, and the undercarriage of our black pitchfork. So if we were to get a weak bar tagging that area, then we can look at possibly it coming back down to create a higher pivot low around the black warning line. And if we get one of those on top of this area of congestion here, then that would add to the strength in the chart. So, but yeah, we've got this, the major one, we've got this pivot low here that we broke down through quite convincingly, and we just haven't quite reached there yet, so it'll be interesting to see now how the chart responds to that. I think it'll possibly keep going to that area, and then we'll get a pullback, and hopefully for the bullish side we'll get a higher pivot low. Okay, so that's the weekly. So we've got a high volume bar here as well, I should mark. And we've tried once on a bit of no demand and up for us to get through, come back, and now we've broken up through that area back into this gotcha bar here, and we're approaching some major resistance just up ahead, and then we can see how the chart responds to that when it gets there. Now just go to the daily chart. We can have a closer look up. I might just put that pitchfork back in on the daily chart. Because I think that will give us some good pivot points, possibly. And I'll just try and zoom in here and pick out some high volume bars we can look at. We've got where are we? We've got this one right there. We've got the pivot low. I should put one there anyway, but that actually corresponds with around the close of this bar, or the low of this high volume bar here, should I say? Oh, hang on, no. The close here. So we have a line there anyway, and we can we're now shooting up into that area as well. I'll put the low. That pivot low is acted as a bit of resistance, but we've broken up above there as well. That's corresponded with a high of this high volume bar. So we've had our crash on high volume. It's come down. I mark the high and low of a highest volume bar, which it's kept it in this bit of a range. Next bar up, down, up. Next bar up, so it must have been buying in the bottom of that bar for the next bar to close up, and then it's stayed within this range, and we've got weak bars as it's come up to the top. That's knocked it back. We've got this spring that took us to the bottom of our little range here. We had the next bar here that we respected, and it's shot straight back up into that, and that's a number 2 spring, which oftentimes we see tested before they go up, but it's just given us a spring, created this vacuum of supply that's allowed the price to rise as it has. Okay, so we got those lines in. We've got the pivot high over here as well. We can put that in. But we've got this really high volume bar there that's as well, so and a pivot high. So let's have a look here. And these are just pivot points I'm looking at. So we had our strong bar at the bottom, it's gone up on less volume, then we get a test on top of this pivot here. It's gone up a weak bar, come back and given us a test bar, gone up and no demand, collapsed, confirming no demand. But then the next bar closes up, and then tests, then we get a bit of a test as well, and then finally we get a bullish bar, which is increasing volume and spread. So that looks like a response then to that no supply, and that can run. So we've got our 1, 2, we've got our low volume test, followed by increasing volume on increasing spread and closing high. So you got to look at that bullishly. What we're looking for actually was possibly for price to drop and then try and up thrust back through that area to confirm that we're in a weak area. But instead we've just busted through and closed high. We didn't get that up thrust, so we didn't really get a short setup. and actually they can run further. They can run all the way up to the undercarriage there, but what it does when it does that, we'll just have to see. What happens now if we get an upthrust or something like that? Will that mean it's going back down here? No, not necessarily, because we've started a little uptrend now. We've got to pay attention now to our strong bars when they appear. So if we do get some sort of upthrusting or struggling as it gets through this area, then we'd be looking then for maybe a test back into this bar. If they're really nice to us, they'll test this bar, bang, and test on top of this. See, they're broken out over those highs. If they're really nice to us, they'll tag that pivot low and take it higher on a low volume down bar, narrow spread. If they do that, then that'll cue us to that they're going to push it again. And I'd have my eye around these perk points and the undercarriage of this pitchfork. We can have a look at as well to see how it goes. So that looks okay. So that's a strong bar. You can't say anything more about that. And then if it comes back now and tests this breakout, sometimes they do it straight away, and if they do that straight away, then she can spring. And then we're looking at how it responds then when it gets to our bigger areas. We've got a line there to watch as well. We've got I might put our bigger pitchfork in as well. And hang on, there's a black. Make that black. So we've got an area right there. I mean, if it wanted to, that'd be a logical pivot point there as well. So it's quite possible she can run right up to there. If she were to run right up to there and then close below our previous pivot on widespread, I mean, we have been getting some widespreads, then it might come back and retest on top of this area. If we get some retesting on top of this area here on light volume down bars closing high, then that will add to the strength of the chart. And once we start moving up again, we'll have a nice cause for a good move up. So that would mean then that all this there was accumulation, and we can expect higher prices. But I think we've got to have a look now at this pivot low here as it gets through there. I think if we do move up, it'll grind up, because there's a lot of weakness now in the chart above us that'll need to be worked through. It's not just gonna we're not just gonna spring like this. We sprung like that because the market got shaken out and sucked all the sellers out of the market, and that's allowed it to rise on this low volume. And we're a bit concerned about it being low volume up there at the top of this range and looking for a possible short, but it's kicked on, so that's all we can say about that at the moment. The other thing that looks interesting is I probably can get a pitchfork there as well. Look at that. Look, you got an uptrending pitchfork there, a valid one too. It's gone up, down, back to the median, back tested the median, boom, up. So then you've probably got another one there as well. Got that one. Oh. Got that one there, that one there, that one there. There's one there. So we're starting to be able to get some uptrending pitchforks on this thing now from our recent swings. So I think we've got to be paying attention to our strong bars now. And what else can we play with? We can probably play with, we had a pitchfork here. That was a downtrending pitchfork. And it was a valid one. Tagged the median line and then sprung out. What we can do, I might colour this one blue, just so we don't We're getting a lot of lines on here now. I might just get rid of this big one here for a minute. See, if it were to tag the upper tine here or the underside and come back and get rid of this, got too many pitchforks here. What I might do, just to see where she can run to, just put a, might colour that in red and make it light, so we can, I'll copy that. So if I tag those, see that tags those highs there as well. So that's a good, that tells me that's a good and valid pitchfork for us to be looking at. What I'll do is I'll copy that line and copy it to this pivot high here, parallel, and that so that gives us another area to watch as well, where it could possibly pivot. If it did pivot up in that area, then I'd be looking for it to come back and test the median line, and that would give us a nice test. And if we got something like this, man, that would just be sweet, I think. And then if we get some low volume bars, down bars closing high, then that would be, that would be sweet for the long side. So that's something we can look at as well. Look, it's looking positive. We just got some weak areas we've got to be careful of as we go up. And but you know, it started trending up now. We don't now I'm just going to mess up the chart some more and put that other pitchfork in I was looking at. And I'm doing that because I'm going to put some warning lines on there and just see where they take us. 200, 300, 400. $500. I'm just using those as guides now because I'm going to make the colour that blue, and that's the trigger line. And I'm just going to copy that parallel down there, copy that parallel. So what I'm doing, I'm taking the parallel from these two pivot highs here and just extending them down and above by equal amounts, just to see if we get some junctions there. And we've got a cluster right there in that area there at the 11988, just around the 12,000, or pretty close to the 12,000. So if we were to tag that, and that would be a logical area to pivot, and then we can watch for it to test on top of this area here for a nice nice long setup. So, but anyway, that's just a few lines to watch as we go. But definitely, I mean, the last two bars, low volume, down most of the body of the bars below the previous bar. It was an up bar, so technically a bit of no demand, but also an element of testing. But the bullish response, okay, so that's a test. And it's given us a bullish response, closed high, widening spread, widening volume, also not excessive volume, enough to break us out of these previous highs. Poking our head just above this pivot here, so hopefully they're not just stop hunting the shorts, but we didn't get our short set up, and I think it's looking good, and we've got a couple of lines there we can watch at the 12,000 roughly, or a bit above. So anyway, I'll get rid of this blue pitchfork. If I can, if it'll let me. I'll keep those horizontal, those blue lines in there. So we've got our red pitchfork there, the underbelly of our red pitchfork. We have the median line of our black pitchfork conjoining up there. We also have, before that, we have another area around 11988, where these reaction lines have come into play. You see how it's broken out. It's just missed back testing on there, and they push further into that bar. Low volume, it's gone down, and low volume again, and then it's sprung. So I think you have to look at all that quite positively, and we've got to pay more attention now to our strong bars when they show up. And, I mean, if we got, in an ideal world, we get a test of that little breakout there on low volume, and then we know she can spring, and then we can watch as it gets into this area here. This pivot low here, just above us, is a critical area, because and we're right close to it. So so we'll just see how it responds. So we might get some weakness come in when we get in there, and then if it were to come back, we can have a look at any test bar that comes back on low volume. We can, depending on where it, if it tags a pivot point, one of our pivot lines, or one of our high volume areas, then that will give us a clue that they're going to spring it even higher again. So that's the Dow, and that's just me playing with a few lines.